Iran. It has one of the world's largest oil and natural gas reserves. Everything that comes to mind when you think of wealth lies beneath its soil: natural resources, a strategic geography, a young and educated population. The country has the potential to become a global power, not just a regional one. But here's the strange thing. Why is it that a country with so many opportunities is today unable to control the prices of basic foodstuffs? Why do millions of Iranians wake up every morning to an ever-increasing struggle for survival? Imagine a country. With its underground riches, it plays a key role in the world energy balance. But for its own people, a liter of milk or a kilo of meat has become a luxury. There is no longer hope in the eyes of people looking at the grocery shelves on the streets of Iran, but uncertainty. Young people are unable to find work despite their education. The elderly are struggling to make ends meet despite a lifetime of work. Where once the economy was shaped by the vision of becoming a regional power, today it is focused solely on survival. So what happened? How did Iran get to this point? And why is there so much poverty amidst all this wealth? This is exactly where our story begins. Because Iran's economic fate cannot be explained by oil prices or international sanctions alone. It is a historical, political, and structural issue that tests a people's hope, patience, and faith in the future. Let's go back a bit. The seeds of this economic collapse were sown with the 1979 revolution. Your help motivates me a lot while making these videos. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel before watching the video. 1979. A revolution broke out that upset the world oil markets. The Islamic Revolution in Iran was not only a regime change, but it also radically transformed the country's economic orientation, foreign relations, and development strategy. With the overthrow of the pro-Western Shah's regime, Iran gradually became isolated. In particular, all diplomatic and commercial ties with the United States were severed, and the cost of this rupture was heavy. The sanctions, which began under the leadership of the United States and were eventually joined by European countries, targeted the lifeblood of the Iranian economy. Restrictions were imposed on everything from the banking system to international payment networks, from high-tech imports to energy investments. Iran's access to the global financial system was virtually eliminated. In the process, the Iranian economy, once on its way to integrating with the West, drifted into an inward-looking, resilient but inefficient model. In the 1980s, war added to this isolation: the Iran-Iraq War. This devastating 8-year conflict devoured the country's resources. Infrastructures have been bombed, production has stopped, human costs have increased, economic growth gave way to absolute stagnation. But the problem was not only external forces. Domestically centralized and ideological economic policies made the development of the private sector almost impossible. The state became a force that suppressed, manipulated, and eventually atrophied the market. This is why Iran's promising economy has gradually become trapped in a labyrinth, a system that seems to have a way out but rewinds at every step. And the name of that labyrinth is lost decades. Let's look at the center of this labyrinth: oil. Is it profitable, or is it all-consuming? Oil, a resource so powerful that it can change the destiny of a country, but it is also dangerous enough to halt its development. Iran has about 10% of the world's oil reserves. This puts it at the top of the list of energy-rich countries. If we add natural gas, this percentage increases even more. But there is a breaking point right here, because in the long run, this natural wealth has not led to development, but to increased dependency. Oil revenues provided Iran with huge economic gains, especially in the 2000s. However, these revenues have only been channeled into state spending, subsidies, and foreign dependent consumption. This has made the Iranian economy somewhat lazy. Instead of being invested in industry, agriculture, or technology, this wealth has turned into a resource used for the daily survival of the population. The result? An economic syndrome, Dutch disease. As resource revenues increased, domestic production declined and import dependency increased. More than 80% of Iran's exports still come from oil and gas. This means that when world oil prices fall, the Iranian economy is shaken. This makes economic planning almost impossible. Each global crisis cuts deeper into the pockets of the people, and worst of all, the surplus of oil revenues has weakened government accountability. A budget structure based on oil, not taxes, has broken the trust between the people and the state. So Iran had oil, but it led to a growth model based on consumption, not production. Let's take a closer look at the signs of the collapse of this growth. The numbers clearly whisper the realities of people living on the streets. An oil-rich country. But the wallet of the citizen on the street is empty. The real face of the economy in Iran today is hidden not only in macroeconomic data, but also in market stalls, pharmacy queues, and the silence in the eyes of young people. As of 2024, annual inflation in Iran is officially above 40%, but for some basic food and necessities, the inflation rate exceeds 70% or even 100%. A liter of milk, a kilo of meat, or a box of antibiotics. Prices are rewritten every month. People's purchasing power is eroding a little more every quarter, not every year. And it's not just about price increases. The currency is also constantly losing value. In the last 10 years, the Iranian Rial has lost more than 90% of its value against the dollar. Today, you have to pay hundreds of thousands of rials just to buy a dollar. This is making imports more expensive, hampering industrial production, and deepening the inflation spiral. The country is trapped in a currency trap. Unemployment is even more dramatic. Almost a third of the young population is unemployed. Even university graduates are being driven to despair with their diplomas. This not only increases the brain drain, but also creates a permanent sense of insecurity and frustration in society. And all these figures are just a summary of what is happening. Because when you open the door of a house, you find incomplete shopping bags, postponed treatments, dark evening conversations. And yet, despite this picture, there is a resilience that stands firm. Let's take a look at the source of that resilience. How is it possible to breathe under the embargo? Years of embargoes, severe economic crises, currency pressure, international isolation, these would be enough to break the back of any country. But Iran has been an interesting exception to this devastating pressure, because despite all these challenges, it has managed to build an economy of resilience. When the embargoes hardened in the early 2010s, Iran was heavily dependent on foreign imports, especially in technology, pharmaceuticals, medical equipment, and industrial infrastructure. The need for the West was very high. But over time, domestic production was encouraged. State policies supported domestic initiatives, produced domestically, consumed domestically, became not just a slogan, but a strategy born out of necessity. The development of domestic automobile brands, the increase in national capabilities in the defense industry, and the revival of some strategic products in agriculture were concrete steps in this transformation. Domestic market-oriented growth was also seen in areas such as petrochemicals, mining, and textiles. By 2023, despite all the challenges, the Iranian economy grew by around 4%. Yes, this growth has not been evenly distributed, and income justice has not been achieved. However, this figure reflects Iran's efforts to become an economy that's not only crisis-prone, but also immune to crisis. Bilateral trade agreements with China, Russia, India, and some Central Asian countries have given Iran new breathing space. Oil exports did not stop completely, they just changed direction. Moving outside the SWIFT system, Iran has built a shadowy trade network, the so-called gray economy, with alternative methods such as the exchange of goods, payment in local currency, and crypto. But every resistance comes at a price: inflation, poverty, inequality of opportunity, and millions pushed out of the system. Now we are faced with the critical question: is this resistance sustainable, or is it a temporary form of survival in a structure that is rotting from within? Today in Iran, the streets are uncertain, but the youth are active. On the one hand, repression, embargoes, economic deprivation. On the other hand, millions of young people who want change and know that things can't go on like this anymore. 60% of Iran's population is under the age of 30. So the future of this country lies in the youth of today. But these young people are coping with the uncertainties of the future rather than the struggles of the past. Unemployment is high, freedoms are limited, and economic prosperity is only a dream. In recent years, Iran has seen the rise of digital initiatives, startup culture, and technological talent. So no matter how harsh the system is, the younger generations are trying to create their own space. But these sparks of hope are in danger of being easily extinguished by systematic repression. The number of young people migrating abroad is on the rise, not only to earn more money, but also for a sense of a better future. And every brain that leaves takes away a piece of the country's potential. Still, one has to ask the question, can this young population be a driving force for change? Or will this energy crash against the walls of the system and quietly dissipate? For Iran, the future is still an unwritten page, but the pen may now be in the hands of the people, especially the youth, not just the regime. Iran's economy is not just about numbers, and it is a mirror of the hopes, dreams, and patience of millions of people. Growing in the shadow of oil and shaped by embargoes and sanctions, this economy is also a test of patience. Today, Iran is a country with rich resources and a young population, but mismanagement of this potential, internal turmoil, and external pressures have made the economy fragile. This fragility affects the fate of not only Iran, but also the region and even global balances. As the money in people's pockets melts, the hopes and anxieties growing in the streets are intertwined, and in this chaos, there's only one truth: change is imperative. But how will this change come about? From within or from without? Peace or conflict? There are no answers yet. When an economy collapses, it is not only economic loss. The soul of society phrase, the youth despair. History is written with new breaking points. For Iran, today is not only an economic break, but also a call for transformation. And our task is not just to look at the numbers, but to understand the real people, stories, and hopes behind them. Because the destiny of a country is the destiny of its people, not just its economy. Now is the time to open our eyes together, because Iran's tomorrow is also part of our shared future. If you found this video useful, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments. Your opinion is very valuable to us. See you in the next video.